Hey everyone, it's actually Jeb Bush, and welcome back to yet another episode of NBA SoRare Steals. If this is your first time checking out one of these videos, for every video we choose an NBA team and highlight a couple of players that we think are undervalued in NBA SoRare. We determine this by looking at the player's current price while also looking at the possible opportunities that they have at an increase in minutes or usage throughout the duration of the season. Now, these opportunities can come from a possible trade, an injury, players being rested, a team trying to tank or trying to pursue a ring, or many other situations. But regardless of the reason why, the goal is to identify these players now so we can purchase them at a low and then either sell them when they reach a high and realize some profits, or use them in an optimal lineup to try and win a coveted prize. Now, before we go ahead and take a look at the list that I have prepared, really quickly, if you could just make sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. It's something that you can do that's pretty easy and helps out my channel a lot as I make these videos during my free time. Also, if you're really into daily fantasy sports or the NBA and you don't have an NBA SoRare account, you can go ahead and click the link right here or in the description below. That is my affiliate link, and when you create a new account using it, you get 20 free common cards, which you can use for all the free common contests. And if you're really enjoying NBA SoRare and you want to maybe control your lineup a little more and purchase a couple limited cards for the limited contests, when you purchase 5 limited or above cards on the live auction marketplace, you will get a 6th one airdrop to you for free. But that's only if you use the link in the description. Now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at the Indiana Pacers. All right, so I've pulled up the Indiana Pacers on SoRare data. And before we click on any of these guys and take a deeper dive, I really quickly want to point out Myles Turner and Buddy Hield. It's no secret that these two players are almost for sure going to be traded before the trade deadline, and both of them have high ceilings. Buddy Hield can put up a lot of points in a hurry. He's a great outside shooter and is pretty decent on defense. And Myles Turner is just an offensive and defensive terror. He's a dominant player who can put up a ton of blocks, get a ton of rebounds, a ton of points, just a lot of opportunities for him to put up high SoRare scores. Neither of them are doing anything super incredible right now. And that's, I think, because both of them understand that they're going to get traded. So they're not trying to put 110% out on the court right now. So I think it's worth watching both of them and just seeing if either of them dip to a price that you're comfortable at, it might be worth scooping up, because I think once they're traded, they could be a incredible play for an optimal lineup, or even before they play a single game for their new team, the hype will increase their price dramatically and you could take profits off of that. All right, so now that we've addressed that, the first player I want to take a look at is Andrew Nembhard. All right, so Andrew Nembhard is a rookie who is currently the starting shooting guard for the Indiana Pacers. We can see his stats here, nothing too insane. We do see over a steal per game, which is always cool to see. And he's got a cap of 23. That's a pretty reasonable cap, and we're seeing him sitting at around $15 for his limited card. And you can say that that's probably a little bit inflated because he is a rookie. People just love to buy rookies, and people are willing to pay more for rookies. I think that's the case for collectibles or for game pieces in this case. However, where things get really interesting is when we go ahead and we take a look at his price graph. So we can see early on here, he was going for, $5, lots of auctions, lots of purchases. Some people were paying up to 10, but he was sitting pretty low here. We see a little bump here. It dips all the way back down. We see a little bit of verticality here, but I think where your eyes go when you first look at this chart is obviously this massive verticality spike right here. And we can see just how dense all these dots are right here, with just tons of people purchasing in the 30s. And even someone spent 45 on one. I'm assuming maybe that's because the listings were low and they were trying to grab Nembhard right before the lock, and there weren't a lot of options. But we can see he plateaued there for a bit, which is pretty impressive. I think it's because he had a crazy score. We'll take a look at the scores in take a look at that in a sec. And since then, he's kind of dipped back down. We've seen a little ebb and flow here, but right now he's sitting at about 15. Looks like the floor is 16, but clearly you can get him for below that, as always, with an offer. So one of the reasons I think Nemhard is actually a pretty interesting play is because of usage. Like we said before, Buddy Hield and Myles Turner are not playing at 110%, but at the same time, they're getting their touches, they're handling the ball, they're scoring, and all of that takes away from Nemhard, who's a rookie and is definitely probably like the fourth or fifth option at all times between Halliburton, Hield, and Turner. If Hield and Turner get traded, suddenly Nimhard's value goes much higher because he's allowed to shoot more often. He's not having to pass the ball. He's not having to move off ball so much. He's probably handling the ball a bit more. He's probably Halliburton's number one target. This is all somewhat speculation, but I do think there is a real pathway where Nimhard is an incredible optimal play post trade deadline. And we can take a look at his scores to kind of see that ceiling. As we mentioned before, he had that one game that kind of everyone heard about, and that's why his price shot up. I think Halliburton was injured and maybe McConnell or something like that. And as a result, he got to play a lot more minutes and put up just an incredible stat line. As we can see, he almost had a triple double. He had a steal. He did have four turnovers, which is not great, but still 5 threes. Dropping a 61 is, I mean, that's incredible. And there's not a lot of players that can do that, much less a player in his rookie year. So as we can see, he's had some duds, probably because of limited minutes, or like we said, just not getting the usage that we would want him to have. But if you're going to buy Nimhard, you are buying him for post-trade deadline, where they will be working on developing him more. He will be a higher option on the depth chart in terms of scoring and who's passing him the ball and him getting the green light and all that. And on top of that, if the Pacers do trade away Buddy Hield and Myles Turner, then they are for sure trying to get in that Wembanyama sweepstakes. And I think they're able to let Nimhard loose and let him play how he wants and, really play a lot more minutes and put up a lot more points without risking him just winning game after game for them. I don't think he has that capability, or that team, or the team, more I should say, has the capability to win a bunch of games. So I think Nemhard's a really, really good play in the future. However, the trade deadline is a little bit a ways, so there's a good chance that this number continues to drop as circulation increases and he continues to put up scores like this and lower his cap. So I think Nemhard's a player that is worth watching. Maybe not worth purchasing right now, but he is on my short list of a player I really want to add to my collection. All right, the next player on my list after that is Aaron Nesmith. Okay, so Nesmith is in a kind of similar situation to Nemhard, where we can see he's got about the same numbers, more or less. He's got a very similar cap. His floor is a little bit lower because this is not a rookie card. He's not producing at a particularly high level where anyone would want to stick him in their lineup. But he's very young. I know when he was on the Celtics couldn't say enough about him, and they thought he was truly the future. Maybe not enough to keep him around, but he has shown flashes of just excellent play, and we'll probably see that when we look at his scores. But let's take a look at his price chart real quick. We can see he got all the way down to like $2, started up at 10, and then we can see a couple of these verticality spikes. Nothing like Nimhard, because I would doubt he dropped to 60 or anything crazy like that. But he got up to, $12 and people were buying him at 2. And then we see another one up to 15, 16, and another one here up to 10, and a mini one right here up to 12. And he's currently sitting at like 10. It looks like we might have another dip similar to this one coming in. And like I said, ultimately, Nesmith is a player that I would stick in the same bucket as Nimhard, where I think you are buying him to play him in lineups post the Hield Turner trade if that happens. So really quick, let's take a look at his scores here. Yeah, kind of like what we said. This 41 probably correlates with a pretty decent spike, but overall he hasn't done anything super impressive. He has put up more in the green, as we can see, with 20s and 30s than Nemhard has, which is surprising because his cap is still slightly lower than Nemhard, even though he's not putting up those eights and nines consistently. Let's take a look at this 41. We can see, 23 and 10. It's a pretty good stat line. He did get a steal in there. Him dropping a 30 or a 40 seems like that's a definitely a possibility. And once again, when he has more opportunities, he has the green light, and they're letting him play a little more without having to give it up to the big three in Indiana. He'll have more opportunities, and I think he'll consistently put up some higher numbers. But yeah, similar to Nemhard, you are purchasing Neesmith, kind of hoping that Hield and Turner get traded. I mean, the fact that Nemhard and Neesmith are both starters, and you can get them for this cheap with that incredible ceiling potential in the future during like later in the season. I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty great. Once again, I do want to stress that there is a pretty decent gap between now and the trade deadline. So do not feel like there's any rush to go out and purchase Neesmith. There will be more cards put into circulation, and we've almost certainly, unless a trade that we're not expecting happens very soon, we will almost certainly see a couple more dips and opportunities to get him at a good price before any changes happen. All right, so we've talked about the two starters on the Pacers that I think could get an incredible usage increase post trade deadline. And the next player I want to talk about is the backup point guard, TJ McConnell. So, like I said, TJ McConnell is the backup point guard for the Indiana Pacers. He has a floor at about $5. If we take a look at his last 10 game stats, there's nothing too impressive here. It is good to see one steal per game and a pretty decent assist count. His cap has continued to drop. I do think he's had one or two decent games recently, so maybe that goes up a little. But overall, his cap has been trending down, which is good to see. Big picture here. And if we take a look at his price chart, similar to the rest of these guys, you can just see some crazy fluctuations here. As we can see, in early November, people were paying sometimes less than $1 for TJ McConnell. And then we get this first spike up to like 14 bucks, dips down all the way down to $4 again, and then spikes again to that like 14 $15 range. And as you can see, dip all the way down to 3. I bought mine at $7 for a lineup. This tiny little spike is because I think Halliburton was out, and so he was going to start at least one game. So that's why I bought him, was for a lineup. I did place, so I didn't buy him at the bottom, but my reward, I think, compensated for the small loss I've suffered. But we can see again, just another spike up to 15. That's one, two, three, four spikes up to $15 for TJ McConnell. So, and here's another spike up to 10 from 7. So things have calmed down a bit. I think partly because circulation has increased. We can continue to see these blue dots, which are the auctions, as people continue to buy more TJ McConnells. But also Halliburton has been pretty healthy and has been playing very steadily since this early bout with injuries. He is currently doubtful right now. I don't know the details. I'm curious if he would be going through anything where they would sit him for a prolonged period of time. But I think what this price chart proves is, if Halliburton has any type of injury, if there's any type of load management, when the Pacers are trying to tank, like there's just going to be so much opportunity for TJ McConnell. And he's a good basketball player. He can put up points. He can put up in a pretty decent assist total. He's able to grab one or two steals. So I really, really like TJ McConnell. As you can tell, I mean, I bought him on a mini pump because I wanted him in a lineup. That's how much I like TJ McConnell. And if we take a look at his scores here, we can see, he dropped a 47, and then overall nothing too exciting, which is why we see this pretty low cap. He did drop a 17, two 17s recently, which will probably, like I said, bump up his cap a bit. But I'm sure we will continue to see these low below 10 numbers, which will drop his cap. But the point is that TJ McConnell has a lot of opportunity, especially post trade deadline. Like all these Pacer guys that we're going to be talking about. And I think having a TJ McConnell is just such a great move for a lot of reasons, just because he has so many outs, whether Halliburton's taking the day off, whether key players have been traded, whether they want to tank, whether Halliburton is injured, even if Nemhard is injured, they might put him in at the shooting guard, or he'll get some of those minutes from Nemhard instead of it all going to the backup shooting guard. Just overall, TJ McConnell is one of my favorite players on today's list. And I think that's also because he's the cheapest we've looked at so far. We are going to look at one more player who's even cheaper, but I think you're getting the most bang for your buck with TJ McConnell. I would not hesitate to go and pull the trigger and buy him at $5 or $4 right now. But if you want to wait, I think there's ample opportunity to buy him down the road for this price or even cheaper. Okay, and the last player I want to talk about is someone that is admittedly kind of out there, and this is more of a dart throw as opposed to the other three we've looked at, which I think are kind of a little more of sure bets. But, the beauty of a dart throw is he's going to be cheap. Now, Goga is the fourth string center for the Pacers. And usually I would not be pro buying a fourth string player. You're reaching a little deep into the roster there in order to try and extract some value. And as we can see, his last 10, nothing to write home about. His cap is at 7. I think that part is pretty interesting and attractive. I think this cap could even dip a couple more points, which just sets him up to have 1 week some point in the future where he is a optimal play. But I think that's a long ways away. And once again, it's a dart throw. It could totally never happen. But the reason I've kept my Goga common, as you can see, I own a limited Goga, is for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is just his price. I mean, he is sitting at a floor price here, and we can see that, he got all the way down to under $1, but we've had some verticality here where he got up to 5. We had some more verticality where there's an outlier at 6, but it looks like I might have sold the top on this one at 4. As you can see, I think I purchased this at 2. So, not a ton of profit, but you know, taking W's as we go. And I kept one Goga. I believe I bought 2 here at 254. And since then, he's sitting at you can get him even for under $2 if you send in an offer. So with Goga being so cheap, it's like how much further down can he go? He goes to $1.50, he goes to $1. Like it's worth that dart throw in the sense that there's really not a lot to lose since you're paying $2 for this as opposed to, paying $30 for a player that, if that player gets injured, suddenly that card might be worth almost nothing compared to you originally paid. But the other reason I think Goga is such an interesting player is if we take a look at his scores. Goga early on in the season dropped a 44. He dropped a 51 last year, and at the end of the season, we can see he was putting up 30s and 20s. And he's doing this consistently. How many players currently on the market can you buy for $2 that even have a chance at getting consistent playing time? So on top of the fact that he's very cheap, he can put up consistent numbers as he's shown before that massively outperform his cap. The other big thing, just like all these other guys, is the fact that Myles Turner might get traded. If Myles Turner gets traded, Goga, as a result, moves up to the third string. And then with the whole tanking thing, trying to get into the Wembanyama sweepstakes, Goga might start or be the backup all of a sudden. Like it's really hard to tell. And like we said, he hasn't done anything incredible recently. But let's take a look at even this 24, which happened at the end of November. He put up this 24 in 15 minutes. He has 4 points, 3 boards, 3 blocks, 2 steals, an assist. And yeah, he's not necessarily going to be able to repeat that. 4 blocks and 3 steals is pretty crazy. But, he put up a 44 in 25 minutes here, 15 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, a steal. This guy is just efficient. I feel like when Goga is given like 15, 20 minutes, he has an opportunity to put up a pretty high SoRare score. And it ultimately just goes back to the fact that I'm willing to take a dart throw for $2, especially considering the unique situation he is being on a team that is most likely trading away some players and trying to tank. So I think we're going to go ahead and end the video here. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe button. Like I said, something very easy you can do that really helps me out. And if this is your first time finding a SoRare Steals video, feel free to check out the rest. We've done a bunch of NBA teams and pointed out 3 to 4 players on each team that could be a potential steal. And we're going to continue to do that for every single NBA team. So thanks again for checking this video out, and tune in next time as we take a look at SoRare Steals on the Los Angeles Clippers. Please clap.